And so I think there's an opportunity right now for invulnerability for leaders to be like, I don't know. Is the union of like some really crappy stuff and some great stuff, is the union okay? Like it's not like an average, it's not math, right? A lot of what we've all done before needs to be reapproached from a first principles perspective.
We're grateful to have Mr. Nick Mehta join us as our guest today. You likely know Nick, but let me just kind of run down. He has just sort of stepped down from a 13-year run building Gainsight, a company that we both had the privilege of working at. And so we're eager to hear from him. I think, Nick, you can tell us when you come on if this is true, but this might be your first kind of interview or conversation now on the other side of Gainsight. So we're excited to get into it. But I think one of the things that we're like really interested in as part of this kind of broader topic is Nick really putting language around this idea of building human first companies, being human first, and how in the cultures that we built, it's really been a core part of his leadership legacy that he's left, not just on us and Gainsight, but on the industry at large. And so we're excited to learn from him as well as we think about how to apply our own humanity at work in this next chapter of building businesses. So let's go ahead and bring up Nick Mehta to the show.
Should we plot?
Yo, this is crazy. This is surreal.
Awesome, man.
It is surreal.
It's so awesome to see the two of you together. I mean, my gosh, this may literally one of the greatest joys of my whole career working.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Yeah,
amazing.
Seriously. I don't know about this Malt introducing me as Mr. Nick Mehta.
Yeah.
That was a bit much, my friend.
It's live TV. Everything's a little bit more awkward when it's live. If we were pre-produced, I could have probably taken that like a couple more times. That's awesome.
I love it.
Well, again,
as I said on the pre-show, I do feel like I'm on like the morning news right now. So I hope wherever you are, the weather is great.
Steelers highlights will be coming up in about 15 minutes if you want to stick around.
Sounds good. All right,
yeah. All right.
We'll get to the Cowboys highlights.
Yeah. We definitely should.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, Nick, we've got people from Reading in the UK, London, Toronto, Mexico City, San Francisco, Portland, Westchester. I feel from all over the world tuning into this. So we're grateful for you kind of spending your time and helping kind of lend your voice to this conversation. But before we get to the serious stuff here, we had Jake Saper on the show, our good friend from Emergence last week, and we talked about the critical topic of B2B musical parodies. And you've been either, if my research is right, on stage or in front of the camera as the Wizard of Oz, Neo from The Matrix, Ted Lasso, Eugene Levy from Schitt's Creek, and the best that I can tell, that's the last 18 to 24 months. So why do you lean into humor and comedy? Like, aren't we all just like, selling like business software at the end of the day?
I mean, thank you. And of course, Anthony, goes all the way back to like the very beginning, which is, of course, what's the first Gainsight parody video ever?
Yeah. Was it Taylor Swift was the first one, I think? Or
no, like it first one, Green Day.
Oh, that's right. Wake Me Up When the Keynote Ends.
Wake Me Up When the Keynote Ends in 2013. And the production value wasn't as good, but the guy liner that we put on very strong. And it's kind of funny because like, I don't even remember, that was kind of a whim. A lot of those things in the early days of the Insight were just a whim, right?
Yeah.
A lot of creativity you brought. But I think what we both saw was a few things. I think one is that it really opens people up, right? Because, you show up at a customer event or a webinar or whatever, and you just, you have this like kind of stiff, like you got to be like business like and everything else, right? All of us have that, when I go to events, I have that. And it's interesting how, the first moment, it's everything from like how you walk in, the signage, how the CEO or the host gets on stage, the video, it just like sets the tone for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think we're really privileged, at least as an alumni of Gainsight, is how like much humanity was there at every event, not just from us, but from all the attendees,
Yeah.
And I think the thing that we did, the small part we brought, was setting the tone, with things like silly videos, right? And skits. And I mean, you're skipping the Disney musical parody. There's so many.
There's a lot.
The rap
Time
video,
bounded.
there was the rap video.
You know,
Yeah.
what's people. Now, the second thing is, I think, I don't think that is what everyone should do, right? Musical parodies. Thank God. We probably did even too much ourselves. But like, I think people also really connect with situations where you can tell the person doing it really likes it. And I love writing, write just insane amounts of stuff, poems and parodies and everything. Anthony's been kind enough to read some things I've written. And I love writing. And so, and your love, like I can tell, like the creative process of making videos, Scott does too. And Scott's so funny and so creative. Scott also likes wearing costumes. We may need to bring up.
Yeah, we'll skip that for now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but people can tell when you like it or when you're forcing it. Like, I think you guys have seen situations where people do something, like a CEO or somebody or founder does something on stage because they saw it on some other podcast or something. And it's so bad because you can tell they don't really like it, Yeah. What is true is all the things Gainsight did were objectively so cringe, but we really like them. So it was likable cringe, right? It wasn't like, it was the version that you're like, oh, kind of is essentially the spirit of a dad joke, which is
Totally.
It definitely
and
is.
the spirit of a dad joke, like combined.
Yeah.
So
that's so good. I do remember there was one, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I tell the story, and I attribute it to you, but I'm not sure if it's 100% true. We did the carpool karaoke bit 3 times over to the point of like probably we beat it to the ground. And there was some like investor or customer, some like serious commercial relationship where you had reached out to them or somehow you got involved, and it was otherwise a cold relationship. But then it was warmer because they said, I loved you in carpool karaoke. Like it was sort of this like human kind of bonding moment that you had with someone that there was a really serious kind of business thing on the other side of that engagement, but it was just a little bit warmer because of the humanity that you put out into the world.
That's exactly. And it's funny, I experienced this recently where I was like, it sort of reminded me of how this, where, as Anthony actually, even though you were long gone from Gainsight, you were kind enough to like help with some of the ideation around some of the videos we did when I was transitioned to our incredible new CEO, Chuck. And when one of the videos, I kind of came up with based on real life experience was my mom and me. Many folks watching saw this. And what's interesting is as I've gone to like events or whatever, it's like, oh my God, you're the guy with the video with your mom, right? And it's like, it's funny because it does open up the conversation. It like starts something. And I know a lot of what you guys are talking about is the intersection, of course, between building a brand that stands out and making it more human. And it's harder than ever to do that. Which I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Nick, we talked about it, you just finished up 13 years at Gainsight. What are you feeling right now? What are some of the things you're kind of reflecting on in terms of the experience?
I mean, it's interesting how like in life you can have experiences of different kinds that like everything, it's very philosophical and dark, but everything comes to an end eventually, right?
Yeah.
But you, in all aspects of life. But what's interesting is like sometimes you get really lucky and the end like feels really good in that it feels complete. And it feels like that whatever the next chapter is going to be great, without you. And that's exactly how I feel, which is like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, like if there's some people who like their company, they hand over to somebody else. And for whatever reason, they can't like detach. And I know a lot of people like that. And it's hard, and I think I got really lucky. First of all, having Chuck, who is our initial president, it's just amazing. It was like, this guy's going to do like better in the next phase than I could. And that was part one. And then part two was like, oh yeah, this is just like the amount of time that felt right for me. And I kind of had done all the creative work. And Anthony, of course, as always, was such a good friend through all this and sent me, this is like, I am nothing compared to the person that he uses analogy, not even close, but rest in peace, Kobe Bryant's, kind of retirement speech, right? Which I love that he was just like, he was just done. Like there was nothing more to it, and I'm not retired. I want to go, do something new again. But I was done with that and in a way that felt good, right? not like I'm done. Oh my God, I didn't like. It's just like no, I was done, and
Yeah.
the company is going to be great. And like I've given what I can to that, like as one step in that journey.
Just double clicking on that, Nick. I definitely in sort of stepping through that kind of season with you. I can appreciate that contentedness. I don't know what the right word is there.
Yeah.
Kind of with and the peace maybe with that decision. But I imagine too, there is sort of an emotional arc of stepping away from something that really has defined, certainly the last, decade plus of your life. Is that the case, or how do you think kind of about some of the emotions tied up with a decision like that?
Yeah, I think one part of the emotion is emotional process is that like it takes time, and I think for when I hired Chuck, eventually the plan was that hopefully he would be kind enough to take this to the next level, and he was really amazing to step up and do it. And so there was like there was a year and a half of like starting to think about it, and then it kind of just like became more real. I will tell you though, the moment that was like the surreal one, because you're in this virtual world, it's like a little bit different, right? You don't have that moment like at the end of a TV show where everyone walks out and turns off the lights. You don't have that moment, right? Physically.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people can appreciate that. If you moved on from a job, for whatever reason, the last, 5 years, especially, for many people, it's like, oh, okay. So just like log off email, turn off Slack. Like that's it. I was so lucky that like, I kind of handed things over on August 20th, and, our final pulse was in May, just a few months before. Now, nobody at Pulse knew, except I think Chuck, maybe Chuck knew, nobody else knew. And so it was a very interesting feeling where I was like, I remember that morning, I woke up in my hotel. I like walked out, it was in Las Vegas, walked, across the strip. I like saw some like, customers that I knew just a little bit. I talked to them. I was like, wow, this is like the last time I'm going to do this. I walked into the venue, like I walked on stage. I did it. I got a couple photos, selfies with like some, some of the amazing events marketing people that, obviously, you helped get all that started, Anthony. People like Kat and Lauren and stuff. And then I got, photos with them, and I was like, oh, that's it. And then that night actually was interesting. That night I like, it was this was like the final night of the final day at Pulse. I flew out for Vegas. My, one of my best friends lives in LA. I went to see him. And on the flight, I wrote like a poem about like the last time, and that was it was kind of very, very cool. So I just feel really grateful to get like a physical experience like that. And that's probably another thing you guys are going to be talking a lot about is just, like these physical experiences, like it's like they're becoming more and more important, which is kind of interesting.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. What's something, Nick, that's really kind of surprised you about the transition? Anything from, how's your body react to your mind? How's it impacted relationships? What's something that you kind of didn't expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think thanks, Scott. Some things are like practical, which is like, yeah, I have more time. I
Yeah.
wanted to. One of the reasons I stepped out was wanted to spend my time with my kids that needed some stuff and some help, and so that's been great to just be available.
Yeah.
It's I think one surprise, which I think every person who either is like staying at home with family or taking care of loved ones or something, is that like the time fills up totally. Like it fills up really quick.
Yeah.
Well, you get those slots. Like for example, it's pretty awesome to go to the gym at like 11 a.m.
Yeah.
The equipment is much more available than it is at 6 p.m., which is awesome. But the final thing, Scott, I think that was really surprising was like how it felt like fine. Like I wasn't like, oh my gosh, like I remember like I have a place in Tahoe, and I, was there with the family that weekend, like after I kind of stepped down, and it was just like, oh yeah, great. Like I think we did a little celebration, but like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I miss it. Oh my gosh, I should go check out what's going on. Let me log in. I'm still on the board of the company. I still have access to, email and stuff, but I don't actually like I don't check my work stuff at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it was surprising to me.
That life moves on, huh? Life just kind of keeps going. You find things to fill up time. Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. That's amazing. Everyone wants to know what you're doing next. What do you?
Shocking the world on the Brand Humanity show.
Yeah. What do you tell them? What are you saying right now?
Well, it's funny. I mean, it's the little when if somebody wants to trigger me, they could just say, "How's retirement?" And
I want to me.
and of course, I totally respect people that retire. But
Yeah.
like for me, I'm like, no, I want to do something again for sure. It's like the most exciting time ever, right? It's really and crazy and scary and stuff, but very exciting. And so I definitely want to do something again. But what's kind of interesting is, I think you guys both have gone through this. Like, you're in the world of like a very privileged world of like choice,
Mhm.
and so it just creates this world of like, I'm not sure. And so what am I doing practically? I am just reconnecting with lots of friends, like particularly investors and things like that, to just like be like, hey, not like, oh, I want to tell me what I can go do, but more like just what's happening out there,
Yeah.
and it's so fascinating to understand the dynamics. Like there's all kinds of dynamics. Like for example, we all are in awe of or shock or whatever of the like Mag 7, and which are the top 7 most valuable companies in the stock market, which are all the big, Nvidia,
Yep.
Microsoft and so on. And like, are they just going to be even more powerful 5 years from now? What are startups like in the next 5 years? What's the future of like software companies that were started, pre, generative AI, pre ChatGPT, pre Transformer? And we're just really understanding the dynamics, obviously the funding environment, valuations. I think all 3 of us have seen some ups and downs in our career. And, and I'm not like, oh my God, it's a bubble. Like that's a very tired conversation. I don't have anything to add to it.
Yeah.
But just understanding like what is going to happen.
Mhm.
I also, by the way, like practically, what I think is amazing, and actually people on this are experiencing this now, the amount you can just learn by like listening to podcasts and live events and stuff. So I have like, I'm sure you guys do too, I have like my like 10 AI podcasts or something that I listen to and start a podcast. And that's been great. It's so inspiring seeing all these people doing like incredible things. So Scott like answers, I want to do something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
I'm just currently learning basically.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Nick, I want to dive into the business stuff here soon, but before we get to it, you mentioned that it's kind of a scary. Some of this could even be a little scary or anxiety kind of ridden for folks, just because there's so much change, there's so much uncertainty, and it dawns on me too that all of us are bringing into this moment so much more than just our professional context, but our personal context as well. And you've been very transparent on like LinkedIn and publicly just about some of the personal adversity that you had been going through while also leading the company, while also very much in the CEO seat. Can you just share a little bit about how adversity maybe taught you, or what it taught you or is teaching, and just for folks that might see themselves a little bit in this story?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I think everyone, I think you to a degree is everyone's story on these types of things is different, and everyone faces some kind of adversity in their life. And I'm not one of those believers that you can compare them.
Yeah.
Like somebody is bigger than another. I think everyone has pain and suffering and that all matters. So I don't want to I think one of the things I've learned is like some of the cliched advice can kind of like minimize it. It's always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, blah, blah, blah. Right. And all of these things don't always feel like great in the moment, frankly. They feel like very like emptying versus like one of the things that, there's practical things like, of course, for the people that want to, therapy, having the right medicine, things like that. Those are practical things that I hope if people are fortunate enough to have access to, they take advantage of if they help them. Right. But then I think for me, one of the things I've learned about myself is that it's so not linear. Particularly when like you're dealing with kid stuff, things like that. It's just not like, oh my gosh, things are better now. How are things? Is everything okay? It's like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
good. It's like the hardest question to answer is how's it going?
Yeah.
It's literally,
Yeah.
I think people that have been through things understand that. Like, it's truly like, actually a friend of mine texted like this morning, how's it going? And so as I was reflecting on that specific question, and I was like, well, I'm just not going to have a summary answer. I'm going to say, here's the things that I feel really excited about, and here's the challenges. There's no like union of all of those, right?
Yeah.
Is the union of like some really crappy stuff and some great stuff, is the union okay? Like, it's not like an average. It's not math, right? And so I think that's one thing that I've tried to give myself permission on is like, not have to answer the generic question, how's it going, with like one word. It just doesn't do service to like my own life lived experience. The other thing that I struggle with is, and I sometimes feel embarrassed about, is like things could be better, and then a little better, and then they can get worse, and then they can get better, and they get worse, literally in one day.
Yeah.
And feel like embarrassed when somebody says, how's it going? I'm like, oh, things are a lot better now. And then like say, I see them, I'm like, oh, it's challenging again. I'm like, well, that is kind of life, you know? And so I mentioned this before, like, you know, we all find outlets. And some of those outlets could be therapy and things like that. But one of the outlets that he's been amazing for me is literally, I just constantly write poems, like
Right.
almost every day. And I have this like kind of like format, which is, you know, well, probably everyone knows I'm a Taylor Swift fan, and so she has the whole thing where she rewrote her record or albums and says, you know, parentheses Taylor's version. And so I'll take like a popular song, movie, etc., and have the title be that Nick's version. And the poem won't be about that. It'll just be like, that'll be like the theme, and then it'll be about, you know, that. So for example, I wrote something, you know, 2 days ago. Like there's many folks have seen, particularly from the US, there's a movie many people see as kids called The Never Ending Story, which I think you guys might have seen. Right? And I wrote The Never Ending Story Nick's version, and it was about kind of like the feeling of like in that movie, the nothing is this like darkness that's taking over, and the feeling of like that, and like then fighting that and stuff. And so I write stuff, and it doesn't fix it. It doesn't make it better forever, but it does feel good that you took your like challenges and like turned them into something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've managed to find ways to kind of stay grounded. I mean, how, you know, I think a lot of people's perspective, and they see Nick Mehta and they see Gainsight and they see this, you know, outward success, you know, what else kind of have you done to keep yourself grounded when that, you know, when there's that kind of inner turmoil, but the outer success that everyone sees, you know, how do you balance between those two and kind of manage to keep yourself on level?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can always do a great job of keeping myself on level. I work on it. It's a not
Shoe
a work in
shopping.
progress. I think one thing that a lot of folks that are parents, which I know you guys are
Yeah.
appreciate, is the thing that keeps you grounded is your kids, who could care less about any serious things that you. And so that is absolutely like the most useful thing, because yeah, it's like if I get any positive compliment from my kids, it's like worth 1,000 times more than anything else, right? My daughter, one of my daughters who's 16, she told me, I was like, what time do you want to go to school tomorrow? And she's like, well, what time can you drop me? Because I really like being in the car with you. And I was like, oh my God, reliable that selling my comfort to anything else.
Yeah.
That is like probably top 5 moment of my life right there.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's grounded, but another thing I think that's super helpful is going to like things where you have absolutely people no idea who you are, and that's really good. Like there's nothing, you know, I do, you know, my daughter's like does like theater, so I like do volunteering of like, you know, serving the kids, you know, food before the theater events and stuff, and like it's awesome. Like they care less what's not sass or you know.
We had this,
which is awesome.
That just reminded me of a story. I have this like pen carrier on my desk that has just, I don't know, 20 Audience Plus pens. For those that don't know, is the company we just started, I was running that, you know, we had to shut down last year. And my daughter's like, why do you have all these pens? And I was like, oh, you know what? I should get rid of those. Honestly, I don't even want to look at them anymore. She's like, why? I'm like, oh, you know, I failed, like, or the company failed, you know, and I see it. It's just a reminder. She's like, she looks at me, this is 7-year-old in the eye, says, yeah, but you didn't fail. And I was like, oh, like,
yeah, you're not crying. I'm not crying.
Right? Like the thing I needed to hear in my soul, said by a 7-year-old who had no idea, no context, you know, for how big this was. So kids just have a way. It's just
so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
That was very raw. That just happened too. So that was very, you know, I just echo the power of how kids can just have this sort of transformative impact, and they could care less about the commercial success or the LinkedIn followers or all of that. You know, you've modeled vulnerability, Nick, for all of us. It could be on having conversations like this one that I think a lot of CEOs and founders, like, you know, just wouldn't feel empowered to do, comfortable to do. You've been on stages with thousands of people, being very vulnerable and transparent. how can leaders kind of model vulnerability, but because you've done this so well, not make it feel like performative or risky, but make it feel truly authentic?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. First of all, like everyone should always kind of give the credit, the trademark to Brene Brown, who's the one who really
Yeah.
kind of popularized this in business, right? And everyone knows that. But I think that, like, for me, it is, you hit on something really important. And like, it's the worst possible thing to have it be performative. It's like
Right.
all of some people know there's a term called the uncanny valley, which you guys both know. And uncanny valley is like that place between, traditionally it was like around the animation, between animation that looks like absolutely like real life and animation that is more like Disney. In the middle is like not very good. And I think there's the same thing, uncanny value, for vulnerability or any of these culture, all these things, which is where it's like, oh no, that was just scripted vulnerability.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, their person said you need to give a little anecdote, their PR person or someone, about like something that was more human. So you did it. And so what as you guys do, I listen to, these podcasts and stuff. And I love that I just hear like just honest conversations. And some of them are just like, honestly, like not vulnerable. They're just like, straight up. So like, give you some examples on the vulnerable side. I mean, a person I've never met, but I would love to meet, who I've just so much respect for, is Dylan Field, who's the founder of Figma. And if you ever folks listen to like podcasts with him, he's amazing. And like, he's super young, and I think he might 30 or maybe even younger, but he created this huge company. That's not the point I'm bringing up. It's the point is he's just so open, and about like challenges and like things he was not sure of. A good example today, I think, of vulnerability would be admitting uncertainty. So like, is AI a bubble? When is AGI coming? What's the future of jobs? Yes, you could be one of those people who has a very strong opinion and says, this is exactly right. You could be like, honestly, I don't think we really know. I don't think we have any idea whatsoever. That's the honest answer that most people are not willing to say. Is the answer to all of those questions is we have no idea, right? We have no idea. Are certain parts of like work irreplaceable because only humans can do them or not? I have no idea. Like we don't. And so I think there's an opportunity right now for invulnerability for leaders to be like, I don't know, And then on the flip side, I respect people that they're just like not trying to be vulnerable. At least they're just being honest,
Yeah.
And so you just look at some of the luminaries. I won't pick them, but there's some of those, more famous people out there. They're just like, nope, this is just what it is. For example, I something was publicly said, Mark Andreessen, who's obviously a very famous VC, legendary entrepreneur, one of the smartest people around. He was like on some podcasts, he's like, honestly, I'm just not very introspective. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. Now I understand the context of everything you do.
Yeah.
And that's just who you are, that's great.
Yeah. It's authentic to who he actually is.
Who he is. Yeah. Yeah. Nick, somewhere 10, 15 years ago, not to date us too much, you kind of coined the term human first. I mean, not kind of, you coined the term, you came up with the term human first. And at the company, we talked about it more around, proving you can win in business while being human first. Which, everybody at the company, I kind of think, lived and breathed by. I mean, it was part of our hiring, part of our day to day, it was part of everything. It was, part of what made me go there, to be honest, after being an entrepreneur for 15 years, But specifically, like, why did you choose that language? What was it about human first, and what was it about? And I know we talked about it a few times about, even the language around, winning in business while being, or not by being. What was it about the specific term that really led you to kind of, create that?
It's funny how like your words that you come up with, like sometimes if you do it right, they can last a long time.
Yeah.
And I think brand humanity will be that in the future as well. And so like that story, which is 2017,
Okay.
in Half Moon Bay, California, in the Ritz-Carlton, which by the way means we had venture capital at that time. Not the Ritz-Carlton when we were private equity backed, but at that time we were in this offsite, and it was a small company, and so AK he'd already left. I'm trying to remember.
17. No, I was there.
You were still there, right? And so then, so anyways, we had this offsite, and we are in and we had this exercise. There was a book called Scaling Up, which is this book for entrepreneurs about like early stage startups, where you define like your values and everything else, your like goals for the year, how you manage your meetings, all that. It's very practical. And they just have this template called the one page strategic plan, OPSP, for people who work to get that at that point. And one of the like boxes was, what's your purpose? Now for context, as both of these guys know, Gainsight, we're really lucky to have like values that were truly ours and felt very like weird and authentic to us, golden rule, success for all, childlike joy, stay thirsty, my friends, and Shoshin, the five values of the company. And we'd had those since the beginning, which is like really lucky. And when you hear most people, when they heard those, things like childlike joy and, Shoshin, stay thirsty, right? Those seemed a little different, a little like unique. And I think one of the things that happened is they became very real to the company. Even before this offsite, right? In fact, like I would talk to new employees and I'd say, hey, what's the most surprising thing about Gainsight? They're like, well, you guys actually practice your values. That's like, I did not think that was a real thing. So anyways, we have this offsite. We got to fill out this template. It says, what's your purpose? We had to like Google, like, what's purpose? What is like from a business perspective, what's purpose? It's a term that this guy, Jim Collins, is a very famous business author, coined. It's like, why does a company exist, right? Not what you do, but why you do it. And so we're sitting in this room and just deliberating, right? We're like, it's not just like to go public or to make money. It wasn't just customer success software. There's something more than that, right? We debated, is it about improving customer retention? We're like, no, it's more than that. That's not like why we're here. Like, why are we all here? We could do lots of different things. And so we went, I saw Shabani, their high Shabani. We went through this whole process, and actually the person that gets credit for the actual term human first is Allison Pickens, who is our one of our CS leaders and CCO, then COO, now a very successful investor. And so we're just debating. She's like, well, it's kind of like human first. And then I don't remember who created each part of it, but then it became to be living proof you could win in business while being human first. Now, the one part that Scott alluded to that was debated heavily was its small thing. Is it by being human first or while being human first? And I was like, I'm a big believer that there can be things that you do that aren't for another thing, right? They're not to do something else. So for me, it was like, no, I just want us to be human first, to like let everyone be their true human self, treat customers like humans, et cetera, for its own reason, whether we're successful or not. But I would love to prove that if you do that, you can also be successful, right? Not that it's like some key. I don't love the whole thing of like, oh my God, I decided to be a good person so I can make more money. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I like the whole like, yeah, I was a good person. It just how happened that I made money. Like, that's great, And so, but it was like to be living proof. We wanted to show other people we could do it. That you can human first, that you can win a business while being human first. And it was interesting because it was like, okay, we just wrote that on paper. Like, will that be real? And we have like there's something called a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, which is like, what's your like big goal that you would hit to prove that? And it was like to be like the #1 company on Glassdoor and stuff. And then like it actually crazily happened one year, which we were, which is insane. And then that living proof was like, oh, other people start using that term. And if you're on LinkedIn and you search human first, lots of companies use it. Lots of people use it. I'm on the board of a public company that uses it. So yeah, it actually turned out to be real, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're trying to carry that legacy forward, like believing deeply in like the context behind it.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's interesting though, because applying human first to today's society, today's sort of like cultural reality with AI, it's an interesting thought experiment. And that's something that we're exploring, of course, with the show, is how do you sort of lean into the innovation on the technology side while also maintaining your humanity, and also doing it maybe for the betterment of humanity by putting these tools to work. And you mentioned kind of speaking to investors and folks around kind of what's happening. I also know, like, beyond just the practical side of AI, you have a philosophical kind of curiosity about it as well. Do you think AI kind of changes or challenges kind of the future of, we'll put human first in context of leadership, of how we lead companies as CEOs, founders, operators, name it?
Yeah, I mean, like it challenges everything. Now, over what time horizon, we don't know. Like, certainly like there were people that probably believed, AGI and like kind of ASI and like the kind of the like epic of like AI coming sooner. And now they're probably pushing some of those forecasts back. So I think one thing we don't know is like when. Nobody knows. But like somebody said recently, there's a very famous AI, one of the founders of OpenAI, like one of the kind of like gods of AI is Andre Karpathy, who's like folks that are in AI now, and his name is like synonymous with everything this field is. And was on a very famous podcast called the Dora Kesh podcast. And he talked about, this idea that it might not be AGI might not come for another decade. And what's interesting is some people are like, oh my God, that's like so far out. And it's like, no, like literally AI that's like kind of more powerful than humans in every way within the next 10 years. That's like a soon, right? That's
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not seeing stuff. I'm just saying that's just soon. It's not like far away. So yes, we need to start thinking about all these questions and also like realize that we have to keep iterating. So I listened to one of Sam Altman's one of the podcast interviews he was on. He was with economist Tyler Cowen yesterday, Tyler Cowen, and Altman was saying like, he thinks it's going to be a failure if OpenAI itself can't be run by an AI CEO within the next few years.
Wow.
And so it's actually interesting because that means it goes all the way to the top, right? Like it's not like, but what are some things that like matter right now? Well, I think there's part of it is being honest and vulnerable and saying you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You don't know how long it's going to take, what the impact of jobs are, things like that. I think some of these like statements that get made by companies, I'm just like, come on, why can't you just say the truth that you don't know?
Right.
But what you can do is say like, okay, what do we do today? And being honest with people that the change and the rate of change is going to be off the charts. Like it's going to be uncomfortable, but you'd rather let people know that so they can kind of get ready for it than anything else, And so I feel like that's something I would love to see leaders do more of, is just be super honest that they don't know. And then just be focused on like, hey, where are we going to go in the next month? Because that's kind of the time scale we can really use now is like a month or 2 months, not 2 years or something.
Yeah. Yeah. We were exploring even on the show, just, trying to learn about the impact to CMOs specifically. We brought investors on board. We had a CMO search firm, which was really interesting. And what they were talking about was how the market for CMOs is starting to place a premium on aptitude over experience and first principles thinking kind of really coming to the front. Maybe to your point about like no one knows, like the playbook isn't here. We're all sort of figuring it out together. And also that like CMOs are going to have to evolve like their definition of leadership to go beyond just like people management and get hands-on and be tactical. Do you see something similar here in terms of founder CEOs or others who are kind of building for that world?
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. I like, as a little anecdote to support what you just said and kind of build on it. There's an entrepreneur that I knew a little bit who ran a SaaS company, similar size to Gainsight. And he, kind of did the same thing where he handed it off to somebody else and then, started something new. And he started like an AI first company, AI native company. And I was like, he wanted to get together and I was like, okay, just tell me like what's different about it. And he's like, everything. He's like, he's like very experienced. He's very successful. He's like, a lot of the lessons need to change, and you have to have people both at the founders level, as well as his executives that will be willing to make those changes and to change the way they think, change their mindset, things like that. Right. Which is really interesting to me. And practically what that meant for him was, he built a management team. He hired a couple, I think he has a co-founder, and then he hired like a few execs that he knew from before who were very experienced. And then one or two of them within a few months was like, oh, they're not able to reset their thinking. And so they didn't work out. And so I think that is a thing where like, a lot of what we've all done before needs to be reapproached from a first principles perspective. This is so much so that I was a friend of mine's a very successful investor, and he was meeting a very, 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 very hot AI company that he ended up investing in. And the company said they were going to go, it was like, I forget what the numbers were. It was something absolutely absurd. Like it was the beginning of the month and there were 40 million of AR. And he's like, the founder was like, by the end of the month will be 100. And the investor was like, that isn't that like a little aggressive? And the founder said, you really need to like let go of all that old thinking. And this is to like a very successful investor, which I thought was so interesting. And the founder ended up beating those numbers, by the way.
Wow.
And so I think that this idea that like aptitude and like a willingness to like relearn, it's just like the most important thing right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I saw something recently about how, the future really has no playbook, kind of toss those playbooks aside. It's so interesting. Switching.
Because Palantir's founder and CEO, Alex Karp, was on CNBC or something yesterday. And he said, the stock is like $400 billion valuation, worth way more than every other SaaS company, right? And he's like, we're the anti-playbook company.
Yeah, right.
Palantir was before generative AI,
Right.
but they were just like, yeah, well, we do something totally different, sell government software for huge amounts of money with lots of services, and this, and it's worked. And I'm not judging, what Palantir does, I'm not making a comment on specifically. I think the idea that like we're not a playbook company is really interesting in general.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of leads into the fact that, there's the risk of there being this like massive sea of sameness because of AI. You can go create products, you can create content, you can create pretty much whatever you want, but everything starts to somewhat look the same. And so we talk a lot about how, the humanity, kind of, again, going back to that term brand humanity, could become the ultimate kind of moat in business. How do you create that differentiation? The thing that sets you apart from the competition when everything starts to look the same is actually the human side of what you're building with the AI. I mean, what are your thoughts around that? Is humanity, could the human side of things become the moat?
Well, I think there's an interesting example of where that supports what you're saying. That, I know you're a football fan too. Like you might've seen that like OpenAI and Anthropic are now doing TV commercials. I don't know if you've seen them or not.
Yeah.
And they're more like a little more emotional,
Yeah.
I'm not super emotional, but they're a little more. And so you can see that like even the top of the mountain, right? They need to like differentiate through brand and things like that. I think it is true. I mean, it's going to be hard otherwise because the tech is so easy to make similar tech. And so what are the things that cause people to have an affinity? I think there is going to be an element of like some human kind of brand aspect. Otherwise, things are same. You could argue that perhaps some parts of software, not all, but some become like, Coke and Pepsi, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like the ultimate, like everyone knows Coke and Pepsi, like the 99% of the enterprise value of those companies is brand. And right. And so is that the world we're going to be in? Is like, no, we need to be better at this stuff. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In addition to OpenAI and Anthropic, Gainsight, candidly, I know we're all a little biased, but comes up quite a bit as an example of record for companies who have embraced brand humanity. And I think in my conversations with others and doing, podcasts like this one, to folks on the outside, a lot of this could feel like some magic that we created. And by the way, like maybe some of it was, some magic as well. But when you talk to like, if you're a marketer, if you're a CMO and you talk to a CEO about brand, sometimes it's hard to sell an investment in brand because it feels like a distraction from like revenue outcomes, right? It's like, oh, this other kind of arts and crafts thing. But I don't think that's our story. But you always believed in the magic, what we're kind of trying to call brand humanity. How did, in Gainsight's case, or just kind of generally in your experience, brand humanity also translate to business advantage, to revenue outcomes, to kind of driving the growth of the company? Because I think CEOs need to hear this, right? They need to hear that this is not just like changing your logo. It's so much more.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, the answer is it's everything. I mean, that's just like the kind of honest, everyone knows it. It's like, and by the way, I think brand and culture and values and authenticity, they're all kind of like this like weird, I don't know what you call that thing. Maybe it's brand humanity. Yeah. And, but no, it's everything. It's like Gainsight, we're super, super fortunate to have, be able to sell to Vista, and that purchase price and all that. I mean, my gosh, like 90% of it is that like in that zone, right? And even today, and I mean, there's customers on here, you guys would appreciate like, we built great software. We had all take care of our customers, but like the center of it was this, it wasn't branded like, oh, we're marketing to people, but it was like
Right.
authentic. This is who we are. We're going to treat people this. We're going to hire people that believe in that. Like a lot of the, people that worked with Gainsight as customers were very, very fortunate to have. Many of them would be like, well, part of why I work with you is your people, your community, your, that kind of stuff. Right. And I think it's not that like we didn't build great software. It's like software is just easier to build now. So there's just more and more software out there, and over time you accumulate an advantage. For example, I think Gainsight's case, because we had the somewhat brand and community advantage, it allowed us to then build better and better software, more sophisticated by companies, build a better suite. And now there's just like a ton of stuff that's hard for anyone else to do. But the start of that, the flywheel, was absolutely this combination of like brand, community, and culture. That thing is where it all got going. I mean, let's not forget, Gainsight started as a force.com app that I don't know if there's anyone that had the misfortune of using in the very beginning where it barely did anything. If you did, we appreciate it.
Let us know in the comments.
But
if that's you.
Seriously. But like the very beginning of Gainsight was a very basic application, and they saw it. And it got much more sophisticated and better looking and stuff over time, right?
Yeah.
None of that happens without this flywheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I still remember, and this is when I was just attending Pulse, and I was at, my own SaaS company, and hearing folks say to you or say to others, they couldn't wait to be a customer. They weren't ready yet. Maybe they didn't need the software yet, but they just couldn't wait to be a customer of Gainsight because of, everything else that was there surrounding it. And I can imagine, and I got to see it firsthand when I eventually got there, how much easier that makes the job for the CMO or the SDR or the sales rep or whomever else it is, or the customer success manager, or whomever it is, to be able to kind of carry that through the customer journey and what that meant, So
I think that's why.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's what this whole topic, I think, is helping kind of validate what we've been saying, that brand is too important to just be a marketing thing.
Yeah, just a website or a logo or right.
Yeah.
Especially these days. I mean, it's like it is every touch point. It's everything that's there. Yeah, these moments you create. Just to be talking at the time, Nick, I know a lot of folks ask still how you built your own personal brand and seeing it evolve over the years. You've done it just being in person. You've done it on LinkedIn. What do you tell them, and what do you tell them in terms of why it's an important investment in terms of their own time?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's funny. Things always look different after the fact versus like in the beginning. I wouldn't say there was ever a point at the beginning where I want to build my personal brand. That was like never.
Yeah, no, yeah.
That wasn't even a thing I thought of. But what was real was that we wanted to, like, frankly, like, get customers and win and build our company brand, right? And I would, we did like a lot of, in the prior members, we did all the normal social corporate account stuff, right? Like at the beginning, which everyone does. But, I think all of us know, like, that's fine. That's good. But it's like interactions are much lower, and it's just the engagement's lower when a corporate account posts on social media, right? And so I just started posting, and now it's like super common, right? But like back then, 2013, 2014, whenever it was, I just started posting on LinkedIn, like, things I learned from a meeting or whatever, right? And over the years, what was interesting is it's just such a virtuous cycle. You post, more people follow you, then you have more desire to post because you get more reactions. So then you post more, and then you post more, and then, all the condolences to all the people on LinkedIn who had to watch all my posts over the many, many years there every day. It's towards the end. But I did, for me, what ended up happening, it was like, oh, this is so good because I like writing. And it was a reflection of what I would do is, what did I learn that day that would be useful to other people about renewals, or about finding a job in CS, or about culture, or blah, 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 right? Running an event. And I would just write and write and write and write over and over and over again. And I enjoyed it. So that's part of it, is like, I just had fun with it. And then the more you do, the more followers you get and stuff. It's hard in the beginning because you just don't have that many followers, so you don't get that much engagement. And there's lots of good playbooks out there of like you start by like replying to other people and stuff. And so there's a lot of stuff. But I think the thing that to me, what makes it work is where it just feels like it's you and that you have to really do it. Like a person that is like the one of the best at the best in B2B, I think, is Aaron Levy.
Oh,
yeah.
Totally.
Where I know a decent amount. And he's just amazing because like it's him. It's not like it's just like he's writing a ton of stuff currently about it's an AI, but it's just like him, and it's so that you can tell that's important. But it's a long-term investment. And I think that's one of the challenges probably with brand in general is if you want like quick results, and none of this stuff happens overnight. You just got to keep going and going and going.
Yeah. Aaron, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to go back to something we talked about earlier around, we were talking about how there are different personalities, different types of founders out there. I mean, the authenticity part of it, and talking about Aaron, it's so authentic. You feel like when you were writing, is this something that you would say every founder, every CEO needs to start thinking about, or do you need to? What about the ones who struggle to make it feel authentic? I mean, what's kind of in their, I guess we can go back to playbook. What's in their playbook?
I don't think that, I think it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel authentic, if you don't enjoy it, if you don't enjoy writing,
you got to really,
I would say there's a lot of formats out there. So it might be something that you enjoy. So perhaps you don't like writing, but you like being on podcasts, perhaps whatever it is, being conferences. Like, and so, or perhaps you have a co-founder who likes doing it. Right. So I think the scripted stuff is just a little, I don't know. It
doesn't feel right. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. I don't love it.
All right, Nick, we've got 60 seconds left. So would love to do a lightning round if you're sure. All right. So first question, one Taylor Swift lyric that best captures your leadership journey.
Here you go. It's on my arm.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, literally. It's a tattoo. It says to live for the hope of it all. It's from August, which is on Folklore, which is my favorite album. But it's about, just, hey, life, personal work, what we always have if we want to is hope.
I'm embarrassed. I didn't know that, by the way. So that is amazing. That question ended up being
this great answer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, ChatGPT helps. I don't know if it knew about that tattoo or something. Like it's the AI overlords. All right, I want to stir up some drama. Favorite Pulse conference ever?
Oh my God, I'm sorry, but and I'm not sorry to you, but I'm sorry for anyone else. It's still Pulse 2017. It's still the 90s Pulse. It's the 1990s Pulse. It's the Vanilla Ice Pulse. It's the aircraft carrier Pulse. It also, though, sadly, is the Pulse. If you remember that I got pneumonia, so I had to skip the party. So I never actually had to experience that party. But having Vanilla Ice come on stage, for a bargain basement price of $25,000, that was
He flew himself on Southwest too, which I thought was like an underappreciated part of the story. All right, and finally, if you could carpool karaoke with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Yeah, I thought about this one too. I think I would put two people in the car. I would put, I'm reading, I'm also a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. I'm reading Born to Run, his biography right now, his autobiography. And he's just such a, just his humanity and his life and just everything he does. Actually, it's very aligned to what you guys are doing. And then I would also put in that car, Paul McCartney, because he's just a person that has lived just 1,000 lives.
Yes.
Literally from the Fab Four to, doing a song with Kanye, right? That's talk about a true life. I believe, didn't you meet him at some point?
Paul McCartney, me? I wish.
No, maybe not.
Oh,
I thought you.
I know.
Maybe there's no musicians. All right.
Yeah, that's fine. Man, Nick, we are so grateful, man. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Thank you to everyone who contributed and was watching along. And we're just going to keep on following you on LinkedIn and seeing all the great things to come.
Yeah,
thanks for everything.
Oh, dude, you guys are best. I genuinely, I'll say this honestly, I love both of you so much. I like brothers, and that's the best part of Gainsight.
Totally. All righty, everybody. Thank you so much for being a part of it. And yeah, we'll see you next week on the Brand Humanity Show. Thanks all.